Welcome to our Brothers in Conversation podcast, powered by Jesse and Shondell. Shondell, you are from?
Bed-Stuy, do-or-die, Brooklyn. That little town.
That's a little town. That's nothing like Hawthorne, Nevada. Population 5,000 cats and dogs. Well, today is actually going to be a very, very powerful day. It's going to be a half-hour power. We're going to be talking about the power of unbreakable relationships in episode 35. This is Brothers and Conversations, and you are the mighty famous better half of Brothers in Conversation, and you are?
Shondell Newsom.
Shondell Newsom from Some New.
Some New.
Some New is a great marketing program, and we can, again, no longer around our house say the two words something new without saying some new to follow. We can't do it.
That's the plan.
Well, let's jump right into this, Shondell. So let's talk about the power of unbreakable relationships.
Yes.
This is really what's going to be really awesome about this is let's start with why some relationships fail. And you just team up with me. I just have some thoughts I want to share, and then we'll get into the unbreakable part. But why do some relationships fail? I would say, Shondell, is a lack of communication is a number one reason why many relationships fail. You share your thoughts on that.
Well, I'll tell you what I'll add to that. Arlene and I used to do a lot of marriage marriage classes for our church.
Okay.
And it's not just communication, it's authentic communication.
I agree.
Communication.
I agree.
Even if there's something that is troubling, especially early on in your relationship, you have to have an open conversation about exes. And like we have a rule, no surprises, right? You know, we would openly talk about our boyfriends, ex-husbands, ex-wives, and openly talk about how we felt about them. This way, it doesn't come up later. Oh, I didn't know that. Everything should be authentic and open and honest.
Well, I love what you just said. This is powerful. First off, what you're saying is you want, and you and I have said this many, many times before, real conversations. The truth. And sometimes that can be very heavy and difficult. And I like what you said about you and Arlene talking about how to make sure that this relationship doesn't bring over baggage, negative things that didn't work in the last relationship, even though they're very different. And I love that because you and I have never had this conversation. Here we are overlapping again. When I connected with Lisa, as we were moving in together, we decided to create a program called House Rules. And we've talked about that in the past. And it's really what you just said. You just calling it something different. And the way we work it is each of us you have to have at least one, because we know you have them, and you can't have more than 3 house rules. And what the house rules represent is non-negotiables of how you need to have certain things so that you feel comfortable that you're living in your space the way you like to live. You don't need an overrun of these things, but what I discovered is in previous relationships, we didn't talk about how one another needed to have it or had to have it, just like you just said, really. So that was a real conversation. So we actually been practicing house rules. It is phenomenal. They're non-negotiable. Every 90 days we check in. Am I honoring your house rules? Are you honoring my house rules? Do you want to switch out? Are there some new rules that you want to switch out? And I'm telling you, it's a phenomenal process. So to your point, Shondell, that talks about that is just not just regular communication where you're talking about real things that matter, correct?
Yes. And guess what? If things hurt your feelings, right? Let's say I'm talking about an ex or she's talking about an ex, and there's something in there that hurt our feelings, say that. Don't hold that information. Do not withhold information, because information becomes stored garbage.
Yes.
And stored garbage comes out like, if you ever seen a sink or a toilet back up, when all that stuff is stored and it comes out, it's very nasty.
Well said.
We make sure that we put all of that out there. Let's deal with it in that moment, and let's not carry it along. And I'm sure you guys, it's funny because you guys have done lunch with me and Tiara a few times, and Tiara keeps saying that me and Arlene never had disagreements. We've had disagreements. It just never boiled to the point where our kids heard us yelling, screaming, throwing stuff because of those rules.
Well said, because that kept you connected. And when I say kept you connected, Shondell, that's the second thing that I thought of when I thought about, let's talk about why relationships fail before we start talking about an unbreakable relationship. Another reason
Yes.
why relationships fail is because we couples tend to grow apart, and they grow apart largely because of what you just said. They don't have that. All the things you just said are not part of their foundation.
Hmm.
See, you and Arlene didn't put the stuff that you just said at the top of your relationship. You put it at the foundational point of your relationship. What
Yes.
is your foundation made of? Is it real? Is it consistent? Is it connecting? Is it engaging? And by the way, you don't have to be a big talker. Like Arlene isn't a big talker.
No.
She doesn't use tons of words. She gets right to it. And
Hmm.
she tends to listen extraordinarily well. She listens far more than she speaks.
Yeah. But she
Which
talks a lot in private, more in private than in public. But she is very, when she talks, she has something to talk about.
I was just going to say, but even then, she probably, because she listens so well most of the time, she has a whole lot more to say than you might imagine because she's taken in so much intel,
Hmm.
right? So growing
Yeah.
apart is another thing that is why a lot of relationships fail. And I would also like to add that one partner can also become very selfish. That could help you grow apart. If one partner becomes selfish in a relationship, speak to us.
Yes,
Tell
sir.
us what happens, John Dell.
You know what happens is when one partner becomes selfish, then the other partner feels disrespected, feels less than, feels like, oh my God, I'm not appreciated,
Right.
right? There are some things that you have to do as partners, and you have to engage, and then you have to let the process take its place, right? I never like I'm a big sports guy. Arlene, likes like Medea movies, for example, Tyler
Right.
Perry stuff, right?
Right. Right.
I had to embrace some of the Tyler Perry stuff, and because that's what she wants to watch, and especially when we got older and we don't have the kids around to kind of put us in different places. Once we started spending a lot more time together, I have to bend a little there, and then she has to bend a little bit. Now she watches a little bit of football, gets into the little bit of contests and stuff like that. So you have to pay attention, because if you become ultimately selfish, and I'm going out with the boys and I'm doing this, I'm doing that, and ignore her, or she does the same to me, we disconnect and we fall apart.
Yeah, and the relationship is slowly going downhill.
Hmm.
Well said. I agree. That's good. I 100% agree with that. And I would, those of you out there listening to this, make sure you understand that you do not want to catch yourself becoming selfish. And if another partner is selfish, you want to bring that to their attention, give them opportunity to make that correction. I think
Hmm.
another part, Shondell, is relationships oftentimes stop growing.
Yes.
I think if you're in a relationship that, let's say you're in a good relationship, but it doesn't
Hmm.
grow, that's
Right.
going to get stale. I think as human beings, we're hardwired for advancement, even if we don't say it, even
Mhm.
if we don't know it. So when you're in a relationship, well, look at our relationship. Let's take our relationship.
Sure.
If it wasn't for Lisa, we wouldn't be together. She
Right.
really was the catalyst. We've said that many times. But once
Yep.
she's been, and plus she's also the catalyst that keeps us together too. Not,
Yeah. Yeah.
because you
All
got
the
a
time.
gazillion things going on, I've got a
Yeah.
gazillion things going on, and Lisa go, hey, you and Shondell haven't connect. She brings
Right.
it up. But
Yep.
but our relationship is at a point now that we literally can finish each other's sentence. We always let the other one finish, but I could finish probably 9 out of 10 of your sentences, and you could do the same with me.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
so our
Yep.
relationship, so now we have to help take our relationship to another level so that we can
Hmm.
continue to foster the growth of the relationship.
Yes.
And it's not how
Yes.
much
Of course.
time you spend on a day-to-day basis, it's the power of your intention.
Yep.
What do you want to
Yeah.
happen in that relationship? Do you not agree with that?
No, absolutely. And I'll tell you what it is. Again, it goes back to appreciating one another, right? I
Yes.
can appreciate you talking about where you grew up in Hawthorne, Nevada. And then you can appreciate when I talk about Brooklyn and Bed-Stuy and all that, because I was just telling somebody it was amazing growing up in that era, when the country was obviously in financial ruin,
Right.
but hip hop was coming on
Right.
online, and so I was right there in the middle of all of that. And you talk about what you were experiencing in school and with your family and different things like that. But we always can come back together and talk about commonalities that we have: loving our wives, loving our family, spending time with our siblings. All of those things, we always find a commonality.
100%. Even though Bed-Stuy was an area that you grew up in, Hawthorne was an area that I grew up, I think the thing that really connects us, Shondell, even though we grew up in way diametrically, geographically far, just different places on the map, were the choices that we both made throughout those different spaces and the
Absolutely.
challenges that you took on. And you took on this adult persona when you were 16, 17, 18. I did the same thing. We did them for different reasons, but we both, even not knowing each other, made the same choices.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And ended up in similar careers and everything. Yeah,
100%. And that's so amazing that you're on the East Coast, I'm on the West Coast. I'm in a tiny town, you're in a thriving metropolis. You've got so much population around you, and
yeah,
you literally, quite frankly, you could have made a lot of other choices
yes,
that most people that were in the same situations that you were in made far more terrible choices,
yeah,
and just their life constantly stacked with those difficult. You made some very important, powerful choices as a young kid, really.
yeah, yeah.
And
And
it,
and my grandson just recently asked me about that. He said, when you were a teenage father, why did you make a decision to accept the responsibility? And I told him I never saw it any other way. Like,
right,
and the whole thing that I've told him is I've never looked at saying I made a mistake. Because one thing is, with all of the education around us, wrap it up, all the different commercials, I knew that there was a risk that if I had unprotected sex, that I have a child.
right,
So don't try to play the whole I made a mistake. You
right.
actually you did make a bad choice. However, bad choices can be taken care of by doing the right thing.
Right, and you can certainly position that a number of different ways. I don't see that you made a bad choice.
Hmm.
I feel that you made an immature choice.
That's a good one. Yep. Yep.
It really wasn't a bad choice. You know why? Your biology was calling that helped make that choice.
Yeah. Yeah.
Her biology was calling. That's not
Right.
bad. It was
Right.
just early.
Yeah.
It
Yeah.
was
Right.
it was really
Right.
early, and it was an immature choice. You did not have the emotional maturity to say, "Hey, if I go down this road, the consequences could be additional life that I am not ready to take care of."
Right. Right.
It was a choice made early on that was very, very immature. And when
Hmm.
you made that choice, you did not have any idea of the full magnitude of the consequences if this thing goes full term.
Right. Right. Yeah, no,
Right?
you're right about that. You're right about that. But you do know. Oh, there goes my light. You do know that there's a possibility, and that's what I'm saying. I'm saying I don't know. You're right. I don't know all the consequences. My grandmother was one that told me, oh, this deal right here is 18 years, brother, at least,
Right,
and then
but
some.
yeah, but Shondell, as smart as you are,
Yeah.
the truth of the matter is, she may as well have been talking Charlie Brown. Wah, 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 wah.
Right.
She
Oh, I
said
agree.
that, but you did not get that.
Right.
You did not believe that that could be part of your life plan. You did not believe you understood what she said,
Yeah. Definitely.
but you didn't really take it in and absorb and get it and say, "Oh, I better take precautions."
Right. Right.
You live like, "Well, that can't happen to me. That wouldn't happen to me." Well, it did.
Yeah, because you do have that invincibility when you're a young person.
Correct. So that's good.
Yes.
So very good. Another, I think, another obstacle or deal breaker that happens with relationships and why relationships fail, I would say, would be if betrayal occurs. When
Yes.
one
Oh, that's a
part,
big one.
yeah, when one part feels betrayed.
Yes. And I'll say this is that betrayal is not necessarily just having an affair. Betrayal happens in so many different ways. So I would say it's not just having an affair. It could be, you not telling somebody something that they should know in order for you guys to build your relationship.
100%. It doesn't have to be just an affair. It could be just being disingenuous to the connection that you made, lacking
Yep.
in your the part of what you can bring to the table that you refuse to for whatever the reason is, withholding
Mm-hmm.
or whatever that could create betrayal. So when someone feels betrayed, they don't feel like you're together. They feel like you're two separate people in the same place
Yep.
instead of
Yep.
two
Yeah.
people that are building something together. So well said. The other piece and the final piece on like why relationships fail, I would say would be if the couple is on different life paths. If they're
Yeah.
on two very different
Yes.
life paths, it's almost like you're living with a stranger.
Oh my gosh, that's my first marriage.
Wow.
100%. That's my first marriage. 100%. We had kids. We worked. We did all those things, but we were in two different rooms, two different spaces, two different mindsets. And you're just 100% correct. And so what I learned in my second marriage was I needed to be. My mom called it equally yoked. My mom was like, you have to be equally yoked with a person. You guys have to have the same beliefs, the same desires, the same wants. You have to really be in the same space.
Wow. Funny you should say that because you just led us into the next phase of this, which is so we've talked about really why some relationships fail. Let's talk about the power of building unbreakable relationships.
Oh man.
And now
Wow.
you really gave us a nice little lead in because it starts with the desire to make a powerful,
Mhm.
sustainable connection.
Right. Yeah.
It's the connection, Shondell. When people truly feel like you get them and you connect with them, I think
Hmm.
that to me is one of the first ingredients in building powerful, sustainable relationships. What are your thoughts?
That is 100%. And again, it goes back to what you said. There has to be some rules.
Right.
And there has to be a foundation. Both Arlene and I come from, a very religious background. Our parents were, it's interesting because each one of us had one parent that was super duper Bible reading into the Bible. The other one believed in God, believed in everything, but the my her mom and my dad were the other folks who they believed in God. They supported her dad and my mom, but they didn't go to church all the time and do like those two.
Right.
We rooted our foundation of our marriage in scripture in Ephesians, where all of the rules are laid down there. And Arlene believed so heavily because her father, who was her mentor, who was the man she loved the most in the entire world, was the guidance. So what I had to do was dig deep into that part. And she did the same with me because of my mother and her deep religious beliefs.
Nice, nice. So to your point, that truly getting one another, that's what's made a great connection for you and Arlene. Got it?
Yeah, and a lot of people don't understand that when we make decisions, we're making it based on our spiritual beliefs. We're making it based on what God has given us, and so we are ignoring them when they say, "Are you ignoring us?" Yes, we are, because we just this is who God is. The relationship, and I'll end with this: the relationship and the covenant that we made when our oath was with God, that we promised to treat each other this way
Right.
until death do we part. And so the promise is not with a human or individual, it's with God. So that's why we have what we call an unbreakable relationship.
Wow, that's powerful. That's powerful. A lot of and if there are people watching or listening to this that are not from the faith, that they don't believe in God, or they believe a whole different belief system, whether it's Allah, Buddha, or the Big Bang Theory, you can still replace that power of something bigger than yourself. Because even if they don't believe in God, there's still something that created all of this.
Mm-hmm.
Whatever that was, if it wasn't the God concept. I come from the same path that you do, but not everyone does. But if they don't, that doesn't
Right.
mean they can't relate to what you're saying. You're still saying
Exactly.
something extremely powerful. And the next
Yeah.
thing I would say would be we have to have empathy, care, and awareness. We have to bring empathy, care, and awareness to build unbreakable relationships.
Love that. Does that come out of your book?
It's going to.
See how I slipped that in? Look, the marketing guy.
Right, there he is. There he is.
So when does the book come out? Tell everybody about it.
The book is actually the second phase of How You Leave Them Feeling, and we're going to be talking about how to build the foundation for intimate relationships and professional relationships, and the book is actually going to be out in the first quarter of 2021. In fact,
Yes.
Lisa and I are taking a trip. In fact, do me a favor, Shondell, hold the fort. I'm going to go grab this book. I should have had it ready. Give me 1 second.
Yeah, you know what? And here's what I'll tell you guys. The reason why I'm talking about this book, and I wanted Jesse to talk about the book is because here you have to understand how to have great relationships during these tough times. My wife and I talk often about how people have gone through this pandemic, and we've heard some horror stories about people breaking up, having fights, domestic violence was going through the roof. I can't believe that when God gives you an opportunity to spend more time with your spouse, you're upset about it, or with your kids or your grandkids or whatever it is. It just blew my mind that people were having that problem. And I remember when I did want to talk about things like relationships, and really that's how Jess and I became even closer.
That's
because
right.
With the urban chamber, and I'm going to get off of business real quick, but I'm going to tell you what I believe in business is that the better relationships you build, the more revenue you build. You can always build relationships that lead to revenue, but you can't build revenue that leads to relationships.
Wow.
I think that's extremely important. So the first person that I did call when I became in leadership at the chamber was Jesse to talk about how you leave them feeling, but we were talking about chamber members.
And that was an amazing event. I can remember like it was yesterday. There wasn't a face in that room that didn't get it. They got it. So well done, well said. And thank you for holding the fort. So How You Leave Them Feeling, your foundation for inspiring love and relationships. Here, this is what the new book is going to look like. We've changed the color because we associated with the feelings that surround it with relationships and feelings, that sort of stuff. And so to your point, we're not writing a book to write a book.
Right.
We decided to write this book because of exactly what you just said. We said the world needs this right now. They need the fundamentals. They need to understand that it's empathy, it's care, it's connection, it's awareness. They need to understand that those are the tools that can help sustain and grow and build unbreakable relationships no matter what the times are.
And let's talk about what empathy is, right? Empathy is really putting yourself in another person's shoes.
Right.
Empathize. Don't with sympathy.
Right.
That's what most people do.
Right. Well said. And so to me, to your point, Shondell, the empathy, it's so amazing connecting with you because you almost always somehow in some mysterious fashion know the second and third levels of what we're up to. Because when we finish with this, I get a very short break, and then the American Red Cross, I'm doing a program for them called Emotional Intelligence.
Mm-hmm.
And the first thing I'm going to get them to get and latch onto is exactly what you said, empathy. In order for you to grow your emotional intelligence, first you got to get yourself, okay? And then you got to get others.
Yep.
See, we don't do that. Most of us don't even get ourselves. And if we do, we don't even think about others. So to your point is to be able to empathize is what is Shondell's driving core motive. Shondell, I know I've got more to learn about you, but let me just tell you right now, I have got you down. I know exactly. I know how to talk to you. I know what to say and what not to say. I know what drives you. I know what your driving core motive is. And when I connect with you, I'm looking to push those buttons in a positive way to tap into your driving core motive so you feel like, hey, Jess gets me.
That's real.
So now when you know that I get you, you don't have to go there. Just be yourself.
Just be yourself.
So this new book we're not writing it to write a book and to have a book and to sell a book. Right. We're writing it because we believe our society needs this right now. They need to be able to look and say, oh, I need to do more of this. I need to add more awareness. I have a lack of awareness. I need to care more about my kids who are and not be so upset that they're interrupting my Zoom sessions. I got to find ways to strategize around that and work through that so that they feel loved and cared. Like when I'm on a session with the client, 9 out of 10 sessions I'm on, I can hear the interference of little young people or other people in the middle of a session that was never there before.
Right.
So you know what I do? I say, Shondell, I can hear you, baby, calling. Do me a
Mm-hmm.
favor. Put me on hold. I'll wait.
Yep.
Go and show that baby some love and come on back
Mhm.
to the session.
Right.
What am I doing, Shonda? I'm empathizing.
You're empathizing. Exactly.
Is it frustrating? If I allow it to be, it could be frustrating. I'm not
Yes.
going to allow myself to get frustrated because once I get frustrated, then I'm ticked off and I can't bring you my very best. So
Exactly.
I'm empathizing that you have little ones or disturbances where you typically could be in a silent, quiet office. You don't have that.
Right.
So empathy, care, and awareness. The other thing is the gut intuition. Use your intuition and use your gut. When you're
Yes.
thinking about things, let that flow through you. Do you know, Shondell, knowing you probably do. Most people might not realize that our guts,
Mm-hmm.
there's a brain, is our second brain is in our gut.
Yes.
The same neurons and transmitters that are located in the brain are also located in the gut.
Yep. And you said a couple of things, and I'll tell you one thing. And going back to my first relationship, I didn't care, and I would not empathize.
Wow.
And I definitely will tell you that I would not use that gut. That gut would tell me something, and I would not react to
You
it.
ignore
Where
it.
I don't, totally ignore it. Totally ignore it. Right. And I'll do things, Jess, that doesn't necessarily have to be earth shattering. Right. For example, I know that, the other day, because I work primarily from home, Arlene was going to the office and she said, "Can I borrow your car? My car is low on gas." I said, "Cool." She went. And then so when I took the dog to the groomers, I filled her car up. She said, "Oh, thank you for filling my car up." See, in the past, I wouldn't have thought like that.
Wow. That's
So
big.
it's not buying a diamond ring
No.
or chocolates or something like that, but it's just thinking and reacting and taking your gut and saying, "Let's do this."
Right, because your gut has a connection through those neural pathways to your brain. The
Hmm.
brain is not sending the message to the gut. The gut is actually sending the message to the brain.
Right.
So use your gut instincts, use your intuition. Anytime I've had a gut instinct about something, an intuition about something, it has never been
Never.
wrong.
Yes, sir.
It's
Yes, sir.
always been exactly what that gut or that intuition was tapping on my shoulder to give me the
Exactly.
focus up and get more intel and learn and then respond
Yes.
to that situation. So
Yep.
I totally agree. And here's the thing. Finally, in closing out what creates unbreakable relationship, and you've been saying it all along, but I'm going to put a word to what you've been saying.
All right.
Action.
Action.
You got to do something.
Got it. Hey.
You can have all this intelligence, Shondell, but if you don't use it and you don't do something with it, what's the point?
Yep. And there's a scripture in the Bible that says faith without works is dead. And we often tell people that sometimes people have faith, they do all the reading, they do all the praying, they do everything else, but they take no action.
So what's the point?
What's the point, right? And that's what I think is so important, is that and then you got to take action on that gut. You got to take action with empathy, with caring. You have to take action. You and I do a lot of things. Like, even one day I woke up in the morning, I said, "I'm gonna put on Facebook that my wife is the greatest thing since sliced bread."
Right.
The reason why I did that is because that was my gut,
Right.
right? And it wasn't Valentine's Day, it wasn't our anniversary, it wasn't her birthday.
No.
It was totally spontaneous because I woke up and said, "Thank you, Lord, for this beautiful woman." It was my wife, who I prayed when I first met her. Boy, Lord, if you give me that woman to wake up to every morning, I will feel forever indebted to you.
Exactly. And you did that. And here we go again. Ironically, on the same day, I had done the same thing for Lisa, and you didn't even know it until you read it. We did the same thing on the same day.
No kidding.
Yes.
You know what? I did see you wrote something. That's right. I did see you wrote something. But and it's so funny because I just feel like there are times, and this is why we have a hard time with Valentine's Day. We have a hard time with the commercialism because we love each other every day.
Right.
Like, every day is a different level.
I like that. I love that style because now it goes back to being authentic. It goes back, what you just said goes back to creating that connection. It goes back to caring beyond that particular celebration day. It goes back to that empathy and that awareness. And so your gut instinct is telling you, let's practice it intermittently throughout the year, not just on February 14th.
Exactly. Exactly. And that's what I think makes it unbreakable, is being consistently going in. And same thing with you, Jess. That's why one day I said, you know what, I appreciate you guys. Thank you. So, because, sometimes you don't say it enough or you don't say it at all. So I did tell you and Lisa, I appreciate you guys and appreciate the relationship that we have.
Well, you know what? When you said that, that was very important because somewhere part of me, I kind of sensed that that was already there, but to hear it and have it reconfirmed, you can never over appreciate someone or something like that.
Right.
Anytime you bring that level of appreciation from an authentic place, even if you've already said it before, don't think that I'm recalling that. We live into our lives and so much happens. So it's good to remind people that you care about them. It's good to remind them that you love them. It's good to remind them that you appreciate them. That also leads to unbreakable relationships because it keeps the threads together.
Yes, sir.
Doesn't that make sense?
Oh yeah, without a doubt.
Well,
I know we got our 30 minutes of power, an hour and half an hour.
We did.
So I appreciate
we did. And
yes, we did.
I really
Nailed
hope that the people watching and listening can take something of value from what we talked about of how to create unbreakable relationships. And it is number 1, connection. Number 2, empathy. Number 3, it's care. Number 4, we're talking about an awareness, and then using that gut, that intuition, and then followed up by action. You do those things consistently, intermittently, and consistently, you're going to build unbreakable relationships.
Yeah. And at the end of the day, it comes right back to your book, 1 and 2, how you leave them feeling.
It is all about how you leave them feeling. That is 100%. Well, I appreciate that, Shondell. Tell people where they can, those that want to know more about Shondell Newsome or some new, how can people reach you and contact you?
You know what? Hit me on all different platforms. I will respond. LinkedIn, IG, Twitter, Facebook, even TikTok. I'll tip to the top if you want,
Fair enough. Well, they can reach Lisa or Jesse at justtalk.com and certainly on Facebook and also LinkedIn and Instagram for sure. And I want to say that those of you that are watching this or listening to this, if you found any sense of energy or power or hope, whether you're anticipating being able to get the book when it comes out in first quarter of 2021, that's the projected time at this point. Do something with this. Share this link with other people that may be struggling, people that may be having a challenging time, people that their relationships may be on a rocky road path. Share this with them. Let them gain value from this because they know people that we don't know, Shondell.
Exactly.
So we're asking you to share this through Facebook with other people that are in your village so that they can get the power of this half-hour power from Shondell and myself. Is that good, Shondell?
I love it. Let's do it.
We close with our favorite piece, and we know that if you really want to create unbreakable relationships and you want to live a very, very valued, sustainable life, it's all about how you leave them feeling.
Yes. Have a good one.
Take care. Bye now.